What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Invest in Denver podcast. This is Ryan Russell here with your host, Ian Jimeno. We are stoked to bring you another episode on why Denver's awesome, what we're doing in Denver, why we can't leave, and what you should be doing in Denver. Ian, turn it over to you, my friend. How you doing today, buddy?
Dude, thank you so much. I feel like you already got that host, that podcast voice into it, and the excitement. I feel like there's not much else that I can encourage you to start your own podcast. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, Ryan. And it's a genuine pleasure just to hang out with you on the Invest in Denver podcast, man.
Well, Ian, ever since you reached out to me, you've been so inviting, so stoked on what I'm doing. And man, your enthusiasm is like contagious. And it really sticks out. So I'm honored to be a part of what you're doing, and I'm stoked to be a part of this podcast today. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. And yeah, like you said, with those previous conversations, the emails, the texts, and thank you for the wonderful pictures of your house too, man. You did a wonderful job. And that's something that I want to talk about later on in the episode. So, but before that, I feel like there's so much more about you, a third dimension to you that a lot of people need to know about you. So starting from not so much the beginning, but like, how did you even end up in Denver? And where did you grow up? And maybe like a quick series of events that led you to Denver.
Man, yeah, that's 30 years of history to dig through there. So I will keep it short. My dad is ex-military. When I was born in Toledo, Ohio, he was just starting his service, and eight moves and 14 years later, we ended up in Colorado Springs. And I actually lived there beforehand, so we actually moved there in 2002. Moved away for 4 years and moved back. And we've been here ever since. I grew up playing soccer, basketball, skiing, and mountain biking, and traveling quite a bit, worldwide as well. But I always find my way back to Colorado. It's just home. It's home for me. And my parents live here, and now my wife and I are making this our home. We're looking forward to having kids here and raising them doing what we love. So yeah, I mean, I after high school, I traveled quite a bit. Graduated from Colorado State University in Mandarin Chinese and business, which is kind of an odd thing. My wife and I, we both speak Mandarin Chinese. So we expected to live in China after college, and then coronavirus hit, kind of threw a wrench in all of our plans. And here we are in Denver, Colorado. So we're taking it day by day, step by step. But really, I mean, there is such an incredible thing about Denver, and we're happy to be here.
What a global mentality that you and your wife have. Like having that Mandarin Chinese background, I feel like if there's any other language that would be more relevant than Mandarin Chinese, I don't know what that is. So, what really drew
That's
you to that language in the first place?
Yeah, good question. I mean, that's exactly why we started studying it. My dad, at the time, he had a patient whose husband worked in Africa. He's an American guy who works in Africa with the Chinese translators who were investing in five-star resorts out there. And the dude is making gobs of money. And that just appealed to me a ton. I've been studying or, traveling abroad. I had started learning Thai, French, some of the Scandinavian languages. And there's just something about learning a language that I loved. For the first time in my life, 19, 20 years, I actually enjoyed studying. I enjoyed learning because I just felt so connected to other people, and people are awesome. So are different cultures. So I really pursued that. And when I got home from my travels, I talked to my dad and I said, "Hey, what language do you think I could actually pursue instead of just kind of learning it while I'm there in that country?" And he said, Mandarin Chinese. So I went to Colorado State University. They had a fantastic Mandarin program there, and I walked out of my Mandarin class one day and I saw this beautiful young lady sitting in this golden ray of sunshine studying Chinese. And I was like, I gotta get the digits. So she had a boyfriend at the time, so that was a little hard. But fast forward 2, 3 years later, we got engaged and got married, and now we try to keep up on that Mandarin Chinese. It's a little harder here in the
Look at
States.
you, man. I feel like you had that secret language underneath that really drew you guys together.
We really do. We really do. It's fun. I mean, we get the weirdest looks in public though. Like if we're eating at dinner and start speaking in Chinese, the guy next to us kind of looks at us, but it's a good time.
Man, what a change of events, like going from, I mean, the military background to living in Colorado Springs, studying Mandarin and going into sales. Yeah. Is that where you're currently working at right now?
Yes, sir. So when I graduated Colorado State, I got a job in Boulder, Colorado, working for a little local travel agency. The owner was Chinese, and we did mainly educational tours to China. We actually worked closely with Fortune 500, excuse me, Ivy League business schools. So a lot of these schools, such as Harvard, Dartmouth, and Tuck, their MBA programs had relationships with Fortune 500 Chinese companies over in China. So they would come to us and they say, "Hey, we want to go over for 2 weeks. We want to meet with some of our partners at Tencent or Alibaba or Ant or something. Could you arrange our stays? Could you arrange our transportation? Could you arrange our meeting places?" So then I would work with them, some of the world's smartest people, and get them over to China safely, get them back home. And then I would fly over to China and basically guide them throughout their time. So it was a really really cool experience. Did not pay very well. My
Mm.
wife and I ended up going to the food bank, once a week just to eat. That's one of the things about Colorado that you got to be ready for if you do move here is rent will eat about half your paycheck. So it does happen. There are ways to make it work though, and we eventually did. Kind of a crazy story. I was doing really well at this job. It was a smaller company, and I got asked to join their team, and the sales was doing fantastic. We were doubling revenue, and right before I was about to get this, nice reward from all my hard work, coronavirus hit, and all of these trips that I had planned to go to China got canceled, and then
Mm.
all of my, my reward for the last year and a half of work down the toilet. So ironically, somehow this my mom meets this random stranger in an airport in Kansas City, and my mom was reading her Bible, and the stranger walked up. I was like, "Hey, I have my Bible too. Can I sit down and read with you?" Yada yada. And they start talking, and my mom kind of shares a little bit about what I do and what's happening. And the stranger says, "Well, hey, this is what I do. I'm in medical sales. How about I fly out and see your son, and if he likes what I do, I'll give him a job." So my mom calls me. She's like, "You got to call this lady. She's got a job for you." I was like, "Mom, I'm an adult. I don't need your help. Butt off, right?" And so like a month and a half passes, and my mom calls me and is like, "You got to call this girl." So I did. Her name's Tammy. She's fantastic. She flew out. She showed me what I did. I had absolutely no idea what she did. I still don't even know if I know what she does, honestly. And I do it, so it's kind of tough. But she offered me a job. I turned in my 2 weeks to my other company, and the day later we had to close because of coronavirus. So it was a super, super cool
Wow.
story. But yeah, the sales is awesome. I never looked on it favorably because I always thought it was like the kind of the, you know, salesmen are nasty and they're pushy and no one really likes them. But sales, man, salespeople change the world, and
I
nothing
agree.
ever happens.
I completely agree with you. And the thing is, like, the mention of sales or that word of sales does have that, for the general public, does have that sort of slimy connotation. But the thing is
Yeah,
like, the people that have that connotation with it, or it sort of gave it that birth of reputation of like, yeah, I don't like sales, is like used car salesmen or people that are like twisting your arm that you're not in the market for. They're not looking out for your needs. The people that we cater to, because I consider myself a salesman as well, being a real estate agent, and I'm looking for properties that people want to fit with their lifestyle, their income purposes, their investment purposes. And in a way, I'm finding something that they desired in the first place. It's not like salespeople are forcing these products down your throat. They're going to you, Ryan, saying, "Hey, I need this product. Can you help me find the best deal or what's best for me and what my needs are?" So I don't know why that connotation is such a prevalent thing. And sales should never have had that bad reputation, you know?
I agree, and you said it perfectly. I mean, sales is finding a need and satisfying it. And that's what I get to do every day. I get to go find needy people and say, "Hey, I'm here to help you." And that feels really good. And that's one reason why I love your team, the FI team, and working with Chad, my agent. And you guys have been awesome because I came into a space where I wasn't really very knowledgeable, but I had a huge need to start investing in real estate.
Mm.
And I partner up with someone who has invested in real estate multiple times before. And I always tell this to people who are looking to get in. I say, call the FI team because when you go and tour a property, they're going to walk through it and say, "Hey, this is what I would do. This is what I've done in my past. Here's how much you can get for that room. What if you put a wall right there and then a kitchen on that side? And you've got 2 units. It's invaluable. And
Mm.
so what I was saying before is that no transaction happens in the world without a sale first. No progress is made without a sale. So the sales are vitally important, and I've enjoyed the space for sure.
For sure. And since you brought it up, anyways, I think we should just keep going down that road of the mindset behind it, the real estate behind it, and how you even got started in real estate. So, with that being said, I mean, with your new job, how soon was this or how recent was this? And then how did you sort of transition into the investment and real estate space?
Yeah, so I've been at this new position for 2.5 years. And I think about 3 years ago, maybe four now, I had a buddy who gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I can just hear all of the real estate and investor people on the other side listening to this saying, oh my gosh, another one. Yeah, that's how I got my start. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And before that, I had thought that I was going to get a good job, work until I was 65, put money into my 401k, and retire at 65 and hope that I had enough left over. This concept of being able to work harder than anyone else for the first couple of years, first 10 years of my life, start my own business, invest in real estate, earn passive income, and invest my money to work for me was never anything that had ever crossed my mind. And I got to say, my parents were people and my dad's the hardest working man I've ever met in my life. He's a doctor. The man works 80 hours a week, and that's down from when he used to work 100 hours a week. And that's just, what their generation was taught is you go to college, you get a good job, you get a good paycheck, and then you save your money. But someone, I think it was Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, said to me, savers are losers now. And
Mm.
that's a whole nother conversation, but it was a huge mindset change to me. And I'm such a preacher for it now of, hey, you need to learn how to invest. You need to learn how to invest in real estate. You need to learn how to either buy or start businesses because working for someone else, it's going to.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, in order for you to start investing in real estate and investing and putting your money outside of the bank account into some other project or some other stock or portfolio, you need to really understand why this is such an important concept for all these people or even for you and what your needs are. So I know like during our conversations and our texts that you're heavily into the financial independence space where you want to just develop enough of that passive income in order for your lifestyle to be well established and paid for by your dividends from your assets and your investments. So, what is financial independence to you, and why the heck would you want to get retired so soon? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, good question. And I would like to turn the question over on you sometime at the in this podcast, Ian. But first thing I got to say is that being a Bible believing man myself, if you look at Scripture, the first thing that God did or asked man to do when He created us was He put us to work. He put Adam to tending the garden. He put Adam to naming the animals. And I think that humans we find purpose in work. So when I say that I want to retire early, it doesn't mean that I don't want to work because I believe I love working. Honestly, I love the purpose behind it. I love building wealth. I love helping people, and that's something that I want to arrange my life around. However, I want to be able to like wake up on a Tuesday, have it be a powder day, and be like, I'm gonna go ski today, Or maybe it's like a beautiful spring day and the trails are perfect for a nice mountain bike rip, and I don't have to call my boss and say, hey, would you please allow me to enjoy my time today? You know, if I'm working for someone else, my time is my own. So financial independence for me, it's not about the money, it's not about the wealth even, it's about my freedom, it's about my time. And I think that my time could be way better invested in growing and helping people and growing wealth and if I have possession of it rather than having to wake up and work for someone else for 8 hours of my 12-hour day. So financial independence really does look like that. It's the key to freedom, to doing more with my life, living life to the fullest, and maximizing my potential.
So there's so many other investment opportunities that you can go into. I mean, it doesn't have to be real estate. I mean, there's investing in stocks, CDs, bonds, things like that, or other businesses, right? But why did you choose real estate? What made that seem like and made so much sense to you versus any other asset class?
Ian, I put up a really good front, and I'm really good at tricking people into believing otherwise, but I'm not a very intelligent person. And if I can figure out real estate, it's a good chance that most other people can. And that really is the truth, is real estate is a tried and true method of building wealth. You just got to learn a couple of things and you've got it. And then it's so actionable, so hands-on. You learn so quickly and throughout history, it's proven time and time again that people who were wealthy, they were landowners. And if you look at stocks and ETFs and all that stuff, first of all, it's just interest as well. I've never been interested in that. But secondly, I'm not educated well. I don't know where to go to learn about that. And honestly, those things kind of seem like a little bit of more of a gamble to me because stocks go up and they go down all the time. And I guess real estate does as well over the long term. Can't have crashes and increases, but for the most part, real estate is a growth, and you really cannot make a mistake putting money into real estate. So that's kind of the reason that I have leaned towards that. And also, it achieves so much. I have a place to live. I house hack, so I basically live for free, which is a huge expense in Colorado. But also, I have the opportunity to provide housing in a market that has very limited housing to people. And something that's big to me is I've had some pretty crappy landlords in my life, and I have the opportunity now to approach people with, I guess, grace and understanding, and just say like, "Hey, I get that you just lost your job. Yeah, you still got to keep paying rent. I'm sorry, but let's work on this. Let's work this out. I want to be involved a little bit more in, helping you in your financial situation. And I am still a small landlord, so I don't think that's going to be able to last. But I hope that that heart stays within my business as I continue to scale. And I think that honestly, we need more people like that. So that's been a big part of it for me.
No, I love the answer. And having that aspect of not working with a third party management company, which has no interest in saving the tenant or like just working with the tenant, right? I mean, I myself own and manage my properties, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why I have great tenants. It's because they see the ownership portion of it and they know that they're talking directly to the owner as opposed to some third party management company who might not respond for the next 4 days and there's a water leak going on, you know? So having that ownership aspect really speaks to the tenants, in my opinion, just knowing that there was almost a sigh of relief when I told my tenants saying, hey, I'm going to be managing the property. You're going to be talking directly to the owner. There's really no gap in communication, maybe 24 hours. Just allow that and we can work things out going forward. Is that something that you're seeing as well?
Yeah, it's huge, and it can be like shooting yourself in the foot because you do get those text messages. Like I got one like 8 p.m. last night from one of my tenants, but it was a simple mistake. I had just finished painting the property. I forgot to hang the mailbox up, and she was like, "Hey, where's the mailbox?" I was like, "Oh crap, it's on the back patio, underneath it, whatever." So yeah, you there's way more access to you, and a lot of people invest in real estate to build that passive income. They don't want to have anything to do with the real estate, and I must say that I think that that will happen in my later years. But right now, I've got the energy, I've got the steam, I've got the stoke to just go full speed ahead, get involved, and build up my business and put those processes in place, and just really make sure that we're starting off on a good foot. So yeah, that's definitely is a big part.
Yeah. And so let's get a little bit more granular. So I know you're invested in real estate and you have a house hack. How did you even get started on that path? And I know that you're good friends with Cannon and Chad as well. Chad of the Fight Team, and Cannon I had previously on the podcast. Sick dude, I have to say. Like you guys, I could tell you why you guys are friends. Very
He's a
similar
good guy.
answers to why as well.
Yeah.
Of like why. I guess separately before we get into. You know what? Screw it. We're going to stick on the real estate train.
All right.
So, how did you get in contact with Chad and find your house hack? What were you looking for? What were the beginning stages of like, okay, this is it. We're going to be house hacking and trying to mitigate our mortgage at the same time?
The hardest part for me was the down payment. I mean, just out here in Denver, if you want to buy an investment property, you need 20%, and 20% of a $500,000 house is, $100,000, which is ridiculous. So the ability to purchase a primary for 3.5 or 5% down makes getting into real estate far more accessible for someone like me who was fresh out of college, didn't have a ton of money, and didn't know what they were doing. We found in the height of the COVID market, like just crazy uptick, we found a house in Denver that was so disgusting. No one was putting offers on it. And I'm telling you, I mean, this was a market where people were putting down $100,000 over asking in cash, full appraisal gap, no inspection. Like, that's how people were buying. And we got this house for below asking because it was so gross. But we walked in there, it stunk and it had a couple of water issues. And I thought, you know what? It's going to take a lot of work, but I think I can flip this. So I did. I partnered with my parents on the first property. They had been kind of watching me learn all about this real estate. And, my dad being a doctor, he knew how to work hard, but he didn't know how to invest. So I approached him with the proposal. I said, hey, listen, you guys front the down payment. I will manage the property. I will fix up the property. And then when we move out, I'll get tenants in there and then I'll start sending you guys a check. And they were like, hey, sign us up. So we did, we got the property and then started my 7 months of hell, honestly. I would go wake up, I'd go to work, get home at 5 and then eat a quick dinner, go downstairs, even sometimes go to the gym real quick because you need to take care of yourself during these times. Go to the gym and then get down in the basement and work, sometimes with one of those ventilator masks on, because it was so gross, until 11 or 12 p.m. And then go to bed, wake up, and do the same thing over again. So it was my goal in 2021 to buy my first investment property and get tenants in. And when I got my first tenant in December 28th of 2021, and then my wife and I lived there for another 6 months before we pulled a HELOC and bought our second property on here in Colorado. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, dude.
Isn't that amazing how much things can change just from one property or one move? I mean, all this hard work is really paying off, especially utilizing a HELOC, finding investors, which would be your parents, and they wouldn't be investing in anyone. Obviously, like with you being their kid, that is one incentive to help you out. But the thing is that I assume it's not going to be a lot of money. So when you are proposing this to a potential investor, such as a private capital investor like your parents or someone else that could be a complete stranger, for those out there that are looking to get that capital from someone else, but are willing to put in that hustle or willing to put in that time and effort into managing the property, what can you say to those people to really convince those private capital investors to invest with them?
Man, that's a really good question, Ian. And I'm not the world's foremost mind on fundraising. Um, but having done it once before, I would say that probably the biggest thing between my parents and I is relationship and trust. They, and again, they're my parents, but that's exactly the point, right? Like my parents have a relationship with me and they trust me. And maybe I didn't do everything perfect. Maybe we were a little bit over budget, but they saw my vision. They trusted that I would pursue it. And honestly, when I got the whole house rented out, my dad called me. He's like, "Dude, you actually did it. Like, wow, you actually did it." I was like, "Wait, what are you saying?" Um, which reminds me of another story. When I got my first sale from my medical sales company, my dad called me. He's like, "Dude, do you even know what you're selling yet?" And I was like, "I have no idea," but they seem to understand. So, but I mean, that's the truth of the matter. Like, I was talking with a fellow investor, and he's in his 60s. He's uber successful, and I asked him like, "What's the most important thing about investing and building your brand?" He said, "Integrity. You got to have integrity. You got to have character. And besides for not being able to fundraise money besides that, but like, what are you if you are successful but you have no integrity, no character?" So I think that's a really big part of it for me is, hey, make sure you're building a relationship with people. Make sure you're building trust with those people and make sure you have the character and the integrity to stand by that relationship and that trust that you've built with them because trust is very easy to break. So that, I guess that'd be my biggest, you know, point to whoever's trying to get started, finding people to invest with them.
Love it, man. And yeah, it's that know, like, and trust aspect of them. I mean, they know you, they like you, and the trust part, I'm sure, was the hardest part with convincing your parents. Maybe it wasn't so hard, but I mean, they saw the hard work that you were putting into it
Mhm.
and the determination and motivation to get all of that done. And especially with seeing your dreams come true. And it makes a lot of sense going forward. So, with that being said, going back into your specific situation with the house hacking, do you mind going into certain numbers with how it is right now, what your living situation is, for example, what the mortgage might be, what you bought it at, and what the income is like while you live in the same house?
Yeah, absolutely. So we bought that house. We bought it for, we put 10% down. So our mortgage was 2238. It was insane. The house was originally, they were asking 495. We got for 485. It was an up down duplex, 6 bed, 2 bath. We had to completely gut and redo the basement. And man, I'm telling you, when you go downstairs, the first thing you smelled was sewage. And it was, I mean, you go down there were like 4 dogs. They pooped and peed everywhere.
Mm.
I probably shouldn't say too much on the pod, or else maybe tenants will hear it. But let's just say it was a mess, right? So I mean, we bought it. We got 10 below asking, which was just insane for the market. And I would say we probably put in anywhere from about 25 to 35,000 on it in the house. And that's completely doing we put in egress windows, which is about half of that. Actually, it's so stinking expensive.
Wow.
We just finished repainting the house. I'm about to rock the front yard, xeriscape it, and put in more driveway. And then just complete, I mean, there was no walls in the basement. It was all concrete. So I had to put walls up. I had to do the electrical, redo the bathroom, redo the entire kitchen, pay a plumber a lot of money to come in and fix a lot of pipes. And so, let's just go in the middle and say about 30 grand in, um, $49,000 down, mortgage of 2238. We now have 5 of the 6 rooms rented out. Once we get that 6 room rented out, we will be making between 38 and $3,900 a month with a mortgage at 2238. So setting aside roughly $500 for repairs, vacancies, capex expenditures, just to build that nice little comfort zone in case anything were to happen. We'll be cash flowing, what is that, 38, about $1,000, 500 of which I will be sending to my parents monthly. So I think, if you look at some of the house hacks that people do and um, for their first tries, cash flowing $1,000 on your first one isn't too bad of a go. All that to say, when my wife and I were living there, we had the whole basement they rented out for about $1,800, and our mortgage was 2238. So we were paying $438 a month to live in a 3 bedroom unit by ourselves, which would have normally cost someone in Denver in our area about $2,000 to $2,200
Yeah.
during the time. So just got the whole place reappraised, and after 8 months, my appraisal came back at $560,000. It's gone up since then. So I was able to pull a HELOC out for $73,000, and then took 32 of that and put it into my next house, and I still have 50 to use for my next property.
Dude, I
So that's
freaking
those are the
love
numbers.
that story. Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly a refinance because I assume with the refinance, you didn't want to cash out. Maybe the interest rates were a little
Yeah.
bit different and the numbers didn't work out too well.
The HELOC I locked in at 3.9%, and the refinance was at 6.
Mm.
So I thought it was just a way better. I didn't want to kill my cash flow. So
Yep. Yeah, it totally makes sense. And it's funny when you really think about it, like how much you actually put into the place of, the 10% down plus the extra 30 grand. Initially, a lot of people are like, whoa, that is an insane amount already. But the thing is, like having that upfront cost already pay for your next property, you're seeing that compound and having that same money work for you and not having to come out of pocket that much. It's something that people forget and don't realize that having that initial investment can get you so much farther in real estate, and using that leverage and finding different ways to take control of it, improve on the asset, and just really make sure that it's the best asset that you can get from it. and cash flow on that as well. And that's something to be said. And it sounds like, I don't know if this is something that was in your wheelhouse beforehand, but it sounds like you've had experience maybe like improving on homes before. What do you say to people that want to do this, but they're like, I am not handy at all. How the heck do I do this?
It's so funny that you say that, Ian, man. So first thing that I need to tell you and anyone who's listening is I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I wake up at the middle of the night sometimes and I say, what am I doing? I should be playing it safe. I should start a 401k. I need to be putting my cash into ETFs and bonds, right? I'm scared, man, and I haven't been doing this long enough to be able to look back and say I that was successful. I'm a year and a half removed from buying my first property, and I'm still learning so much every day. And I think that's another big piece is you got to learn. You got to consume your education. You got to learn what real estate is. You got to learn how to be a good landlord. But at some point, the learning's got to stop, and you got to actually do it. I think every real estate guru says that. I mean, sometimes people never get started because they don't think they know enough. And I have just admitted that I know I don't know enough, but I did something anyways. Um, and then to your question, Ian, I bought my first house. I have no remodeling experience in my life. And I have some family members and I have Canon over to help start cleaning the house, start taking a couple things down. This is day one. And I'm trying to get blinds out of my window, these old nasty blinds, and I can't get the drill to get the screw out. It keeps like slipping off and stuff. And Canon behind me goes, great, you didn't know how to use a screwdriver. And the truth of the matter is, man, I didn't. But I YouTube so much stuff. I looked up everything, and I gotta say this to your mindset idea is there's something that you gotta know, and something I tell myself every day, especially when I was doing these models, is there's gotta be something in the back of your head where you're telling yourself, I can do this. Like I know I got what it takes. I might mess up. I might not make it happen today, but I know I've got the hunger and the hustle and the ability to succeed if I put my mind to this. And
Mm.
so just doing that in the back of my head every day, like, hey, I can do this. In those moments where I'm looking at like a leaky faucet, I'm like, I don't know how to fix this. Just telling yourself, I can do it. I can do this. And the other part is I had a ton of help. I could not have done this by myself. I have a rock star wife. I've got a rock star set of parents. I've got some awesome friends that ate a ton of pizza and drank a ton of beer to come over and help me with my basement. So I would just say, man, like building wealth is never, unless you're Elon Musk, he probably didn't even do it by himself, but it's never a single solo man trip. You got to have people on your side. You got people on your court. You got to people that you serve as well, because then they're going to be just as happy to come help you out. So I would say learn, take action, YouTube the crap out of stuff you don't know, and then get people over to help you.
Love it, man. And I really like what you said there regarding real estate is a team sport. And in essence, you
Hmm.
can't just do any of this stuff on your own. I mean, number one, you need a lender. I mean, they're
Yeah.
financing 90% of this work, and you have no idea how to even generate that capital or how. I mean, you're taking it in stride. It sounds like you just looked at the next step, said, okay, I need capital in order for this property to be considered mine. So you went to your parents, then you got financing for it. You went to a lender. You During that whole process, you had Chad to help work with you during that whole portion of it. Were you working with Chad on that first property?
Yeah, he's the one.
Okay.
I think actually I was his first purchase in Colorado.
Oh, no way. Heck yeah. I
Yeah,
love to
I
hear it,
I
man.
think I think I heard that from a roundabout story, but I asked him. I think I was his first close in Colorado.
There you go. Humble beginnings for both of you guys. I love to hear it.
Yes.
With that being said, what is the purpose of all this? I mean, obviously, you want to make sure that you're investing properly, you have a couple properties, and you're mitigating your mortgage as much as possible so that you can live close to free and save up as much money as possible to invest more. But to what end? Why do you even want to do this? Like, what's your financial independent life look like?
We did touch on this a little bit earlier, Ian, and I'll cycle back around it because this is such a big question, right? This is the question, and everyone who wants to get started in investing and in financial independence, you need to ask yourself this question. This is the why. Why do I do it? Why do I wake up at 5:30 before everyone else and get started? Why do I hustle harder than everyone else? You have to know the whys. And I won't show you, but I have a list of whys, 10 whys that I wrote down, and I read them every day. 5:30, I wake up, I make my coffee, I do my yoga, and then I read my Bible, and then I read my whys. Why am I hustling today? So there's a ton of reasons for why I want to do it, and just to share, I guess a couple, two or three of them.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, one here, maybe I should get it out. Can I get it out, or do you want me to just throw it
Sure,
off the
let's do it,
cuff?
dude. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's find these real quick, my man. But the big one I gotta say is I want that freedom, right? I want to be able to go ski on a Tuesday. And we need to talk about that next, okay? Because we're here in Denver, and that's just something that you can do in Denver, right? Um, so number one was I want more time to do the things I love.
Hmm.
So that's the ski, that's the mountain biking, that's the camping, and that's the traveling, worldwide. And all these answers are so stinking cliche, but that's because those things are amazing. Those things I think add so much to, your life. Another couple of ones that I have here is I hate living paycheck to paycheck. I did
Hmm.
live paycheck to paycheck for a long time, and I was married, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to put food on the table for my wife, and that's a terrifying, terrifying position to be in, and I never ever wanted to be in that position. So that was a big one that got me up out of bed early. Was I got to go work to put food on my table today.
Hmm.
So working a little harder each day was an easy thing to do when that was it. Um, I've got a couple ones down here about taxes. I'm not going to read those. We'll skip right over that. Okay.
Sure.
Another one was I want to make a difference in the world. I want to leave a legacy, and I want to prove that you can be a Christian and a successful businessman, which we won't get into that through the time, but there just isn't a huge Christians believe that you need to be poor in order to be, good. And I don't necessarily think that's true. And I just want to show that, I can help further the Lord's kingdom with, the things that I build and with the people that I help through that. So that's a really big one for me personally.
Yeah. Do you mind if I expand on that a little bit more, Ryan? And I want to hear your
Yeah.
input on that. So, I hear from Brandon Turner and from other people that are also men of
Yeah.
God that they say that it's the love of money that is the root of all evil,
Right.
not using that money. I'm going to be butchering it so hard right now, but
You're on
a lot of
point, dude.
a lot of people think that money is the root of all evil. No, that is not the case. The love of money is the root of all
Correct.
evil. The having it just compile and be safeguarded in your own possession is not what money is for. It's a tool to build the life you want and give and share and build the life that other people want to have, because ultimately it's not going to be a fun world if it's just going to be you that's being successful.
Hmm.
There's so much more to it than just hoarding it for yourself. And what you said right there, that people like Christians can be successful business people and still be true to their word to God, right? Can you
Exactly.
expand on that a little bit more if there's anything that I'm missing?
No, man, I mean, you're spot on. There's a scripture that says, it's talking about serving two masters, and it says you cannot serve God and money. And there's this concept of, I can't pursue being rich and having money and live a godly lifestyle. And that is true, but it's such an interesting, separation because what you said is exactly correct. For me, it's not the love of money. I don't want to be rich for rich sake. I don't want to be rich so I can buy a 500 foot, $500 million yacht to fly all my friends in, and because that's what I need to be fulfilled. That's what I think the purpose of life is wealth and richness, right? There's so much more to life. There's so much more that you can do with your wealth, like help other people, and you need money for that. Plain and
Mm.
simple. Churches believe in doing these things called mission trips, where you go over to help people in need, and you need money to buy plane tickets. You need money to build aquaponic systems and wells in these third world villages and stuff like that. And you can't do that if you're not generating that.
Mm.
And there were so many other things on my mind that I was going to share that has just now completely left. But it really is the basics of understanding that and then keeping yourself in check. One thing
Mm.
that the Bible calls me to do is to tithe 10% of all I make. And I do that, and this is hard, and this might be oversharing a little bit too much, so feel free to cut this out later
You're
if you need
good.
to. But I used to tithe 10% of what I made after taxes,
Mm,
but that's completely different when you tithe 10% before taxes. If you look at how much I'm taxed and then how much I then tithe afterwards, I'm only keeping about 50% of what I actually make.
mhm.
And that's really tough to do, and that keeps me humble, and that keeps me realizing like, hey, this money that I have is not it's yours. You gave it to me. I'm going to hold it loosely because I think that when you start to do that with your money, you start to get selfish with it and arrogant with it. That's when you start to go down a bad road. So it really is mindset and perspective, and it comes down to the purpose of what you believe life is for, and the depth of your that perspective in your character. So I hope that
Yeah.
was a good answer. It's we could talk about this for another 3 hours, bro.
No, I love that stuff, and we can talk about it off the air. But that's amazing, and I'm glad that you're bringing up that concept because a lot of people have that confused, and it's not widely taught, and people forget that it's not like money should be just treated like a tool. It's not something that you
Yeah,
accumulate, and by the time you die, the chips are given back to death, or
yeah,
if you're not properly utilizing it, if you don't know your investments, your assets, and how they transfer down to your next generation, that is another portion that you need to be knowledgeable of, like having the knowledge and being a proper entrepreneur and business person to really leave a legacy behind. So, with all that being said, that is something that we can discuss off the air. But something that I do want to keep going on is what your financial independence life looks like. And I know you
yeah.
are a lover of the mountains, man.
Yes,
The
sir.
skiing, the snowboarding, the backpacking, everything in between, especially consuming nice beverages.
Mm.
So I know Canon is a huge proponent of that as well. And tell me what. I guess I'll start with this story, right? With me doing a little bit more research on you, and we discussed this before we hit record, but I loved this video that I saw on your Facebook with Canon and Stian and you with the dog hanging out hardcore and just doing this overnight backpacking trip in the mountains with fresh powder on the ground. You guys were having a blast, and I mean, you're sweating. It's almost like type 2 fun, but at the end of the night, it almost looks like type 1 fun at that time. So tell us a little bit more about that trip, man.
Well, first of all, you just said it so well. The first and premier type of fun in Colorado is type two fun. It's a whole lot of suck up front and a whole lot of fun at the bottom. So we call it earning your turns. So you do that with skiing and mountain biking and backpacking, all this stuff. Like you got to put in the suck to get up the mountain, but then it's a whole bunch of fun on the way down. So what we were doing on that particular trip, we do backcountry skiing, and so this is not in bounds at a resort. We don't pay money to go visit and ride a chairlift up. We have to walk up the mountain ourselves and then ski down the mountain. Now, we had found out that the next day was going to be a pretty nasty powder day, and we wanted to get out there. My buddy had just bought a four-season tent, so it's a tent that you're supposed to camp in winter with. Now, I don't know if camping in winter meant camping at 11,000 feet in 5 feet of snow, but that's what we thought that we were going to do. So we threw our backpacks on. We grabbed the dogs and we grabbed our split boards, ski on skins. And a split board is basically it's a snowboard that comes apart, and you probably saw this in the video. And then you put these, so they come basically comes a snowboard into skis, and you put these things called skins on the bottom, and the skins help they grab the snow so you can walk uphill in the snow without
Mm.
sliding down. So we walked up. I don't even know how far it was up to the top of this bowl. This pass, Montgomery Pass, 11,000 feet, just at tree line. And we dug our snow pit and we pitched our tent. And it's starting to get dark, and it's already the snow's just coming down, pounding on us. And we crawl in this tent, and it was the coldest night of my life, easily 100%. And it doesn't help because we were working so hard to get up the hill. And even though we'd stripped off our shirts, rolled up our pants, I mean, it's 20 degrees out, right? But we're still sweating because we're working so hard. Everything, like I was just wet. I was soaked. And then
Mm.
when the temperature dropped to like, below 10, maybe down to close to zero, we're laying in the tent. We've got a couple pads between us and the snow, but it's still so cold. Like your underwear would start to freeze, you know?
Ah,
So,
yeah.
so you're laying there in your sleeping bag. You're like, it's so cold. So there's a couple of times where like we'd wake up and we'd have to like change and all that stuff. But we woke up the next day around 4 a.m. It finally started to warm up, and we passed out. We woke up around 9. And people are probably listening to this to me like, "What the heck, dude? This sounds terrible. Why would you do this?" This is what I'm talking about. It's secondary fun. A little bit of suck up front, a lot of fun at the bottom. And then you're just up at this bowl, this massive open bowl. We got 11 inches of snow. And we woke up, we made ourselves breakfast, some coffee, we dug a snow couch, and just chilled. And then you would just walk up the top part of the bowl, and then you transition, put your snowboard back together, and then you ski down just the most dreamy runs.
Mm.
And it is definitely a memory that sticks out to my mind. Every year we're like, we gotta go do that again, but it's just, man, hard. It's hard to make it happen, you know?
Yeah, especially, I mean, having the W-2, having the life, and having your friends do the same thing. I mean, this is just a temporary suck, right? Having to
Right.
live this life of working your ass off, house hacking, living with other people. Not that many people want to do this stuff, but this is the reason why you should be doing this, to do the life or live the life that you want to live. And this looks like so much fun, or just sounds like so much fun without me having to experience that night.
Well, and it is, dude, and I highly recommend you do it sometime, but make sure you get your proper training, because nothing makes you appreciate a warm bed more than after that kind of night, right? But I think in honor of this podcast and what you're doing here, Ian, I think that's one reason why Denver has become such an appealing location for people is we have a booming economy. We've got this incredible demographic of people who are moving here, who are bringing really good beer. I think that was here first, actually. So maybe I'll take that back. Good beer was already here. People are moving here for the good beer, really good coffee. And then you've got, I mean, our healthcare industry is booming. Our tech industry is up and coming. I mean, we just have so much, job potential here. A
Hmm.
lot of money flowing through Denver. And then you're 45 minutes to the top of Bertha Pass where, you go and ski and it's so incredible. I mean, we do these things called dawn patrols. We'll wake up at 4, we'll drive up to Bertha Pass, we'll get one really long lap in, and then we're home by 7:30, shower, changed, and we go to work. That's just what you do when you're in Denver. It's that kind of lifestyle that I love. And I gotta say, when I meet people, especially natives, because there's like totally this native pride. I'd be like, I'm a native.
Yeah.
But some of them like they don't even ski, or mountain bike or get into the mountains, and you're like, why? If you don't do that, why are you here? That's the point of it, right? So I just love to see and help people just live life like that, experience the mountains and get out, and because there's just a whole nother side to appreciating life when you kind of get out of it all and you're just surrounded by beauty. Beauty transforms, and when you're in the midst of it, it just makes life so much richer.
I love that, man. That passion and that enthusiasm for the mountains and being outdoors just is addicting, and it
Oh yeah,
wasn't, this is merely the extra credit, if you will, with what already the other people that have been living in Denver have been telling me to do and have been wanting me to do. So I consider myself a runner, although I haven't done a race in a long
yeah,
time, but I have the long legs. I might as well put it to good use, right? So they told me that I have to do a 50K. I have to do something in the mountains to really put my body and my mind to the test. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So April 30th, I'm going to do the Cheyenne Trail over in Colorado Springs, 50K, 30 something miles. I don't even want to look at the
dude.
numbers. It's
Yeah,
just like I just want to accomplish it, complete it, and
yes,
if I catch the bug, then I'll keep going. But
yes.
enough people have told me, and with that same passion and enthusiasm that you're telling the story with, to tell me to do this, and it's addicting, man. It's that type 2 fun, the love, the struggle, and to really know yourself to do this stuff. It's really humbling and exciting, and a good story to tell at the end.
Isn't that the truth, man? Like, it's so humbling. Oh my gosh, there's these massive rocks in the ground that just challenge you every day, mentally, physically. You're just so small. It's such a good reminder to look at that every day and be like, man, I'm small. I
Yeah.
don't know everything. But yeah, running. My wife is a huge trail runner. She did a 25K up in Gunnison.
Hell yeah.
She was that last year by now, and she just signed up for the next one in October. So she's training for that. I'm a terrible runner, swimmer too. I can't do it, man. It's exhausting. It's hard. It hurts my knees.
Mm.
But my buddy gets me up once or twice a week at early, and we go do about 4 to 8 miles. And I'm happy for that. And dude, just starting the day with a couple of miles under your belt is just life changing. You just
Yeah.
life is so much brighter afterwards. I don't know what it is. So, dude, I dig it. I'm proud of you. You're gonna freaking crush it. Cheyenne's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. If you got time, stop by the zoo afterwards because Cheyenne Mountain Zoo is quite neat.
Okay, thanks for the tips, man. And
Yeah.
this is this type of stuff that I want my audience to hear, man. So, with that being said, I do want to leave some time to flip the script, have the turntables turn, and give you
Yes.
the mic for me to answer as the interviewee this time around. So, do you got anything for me, Ryan?
Oh man, where to begin, buddy? Hey, first of all, this has been an awesome time. So just thank you. I've had a lot of fun. But one question that you asked me earlier that I said I was going to turn over is, what does FI, what does financial independence look like for you? I mean, you're in the thick of it, man. Sounds like you've taken some steps, got some investment properties. You're on an incredible agency. You're doing a podcast. What's it look like?
Yeah, financial independence for me, like you said earlier as well, it's not sitting on the beach drinking Mai Tais and doing jack shit. I don't know if I don't even know if we should curse on this podcast.
Yeah, dude,
But
it's your podcast.
but my idea of financial independence is being an educator, and I love teaching people to take care of yourself and invest in real estate or invest in yourself at the same time. Like, there's too many people out there that don't even have $5,000 to their name and they're
Yeah.
living paycheck to paycheck. And I'm sure you feel that sentiment as well. I mean, if only I knew about the financial independence or house hacking strategy when I was 18, 19, 20 in community college and university, where I was living in a room with like three other people in a 300 square foot place, you know? Why did I not own this property at the same time? And I wish I knew this stuff, and that's the stuff that I want to impose on people if they want to learn this stuff. But there's so much power to it that not many people realize, and that's my financial independence goal. So along with that, I guess personally, I would love to. Me and my wife want to retire in 6 years, and we want to live in Amsterdam for a year. So like being a barista over there, like living the job or living the life, learning the language, having a job over there. I want to be a local, you know,
Yes.
and just learning the culture and staying at different spots for a year at a time. I feel like 2 weeks is nothing. There's nothing you can learn from 2 weeks from the culture other than simple stories of how embarrassed you were with your culture shock, you know? But I want to learn this stuff going into different places and be uncomfortable and feel comfortable at the end of those 365 days.
That is awesome. It's so funny because I feel like you just copy and pasted something my wife and I want to do. It's so similar to that. Just go over and be in other cultures and work in like a job where you interact with the locals and stuff like that. So why Amsterdam? I mean, there's the world's a big place. Why that place?
Yeah, that initially spoke to us because there were so many methods of public transportation and they knew how to live, in my opinion. I mean, the food was really good, in my opinion, as well. The canals were nice. Also, it's funny, I like to tell this story to people like the main road there. Um, to really get a good idea of picturing what Main Street looks like, quote unquote Main Street, you have the sidewalk with people walking, then you have bikes, then you have cars, then a train right in the middle, like a rail line, then it goes back to cars, then bikes, then people walking. And the primary method of transportation was biking. So the biggest
Biking.
lane there was biking. I was like, wow, this is a different culture. And it feels like, I mean, a lot of people speak English there, but there was something about that initially drew me to it. I mean, obviously, I've only seen what 1% of the world, if even. So that was just the first area that I thought of. And Kat loves it too. My wife loves it too. So we're like, you know what? Let's start with Amsterdam and see where we go from there.
Heck yeah, man. You need to call Cannon and tell him that because Cannon's the kind of guy who says, if I can't bike to it, I'm not going to it. And I mean, he's lived in Denver. He's just absolutely dying because he has to drive everywhere. He's got all these fancy old bikes that he bikes around, and that's a big deal for him. So that's super cool. Seriously, you need to tell him that. He might join you guys, but I
I
want to go
will.
back to something that you said right before that was you love educating people and teaching it people.
Yep.
I think that's a huge problem right now. Is I don't think there's enough people who learn anything. They
Yep.
graduate college and then they're done. There's nothing more for them to learn. They don't even like learning. I hated learning,
Mm.
but you give me the right thing, you make me passionate about it. I love it. So how what does that look like for you guys? How do you want to educate people?
Yeah, totally. And I share the same sentiment. I think the main reason why people don't want to educate or they're not as passionate to learn this stuff is because the teachers are not passionate in the first place. So they're teaching them all the wrong things and in the wrong ways. So, how I see myself, I spent about 7 years in community college. I had no idea what I wanted to do and I wanted to save money at the same time. So, while I was working at Starbucks, and I know you're a fellow old school barista, I was there for about 8 years and I was putting myself through community college, especially at that rate versus a university rate. I was able to learn at night classes, and the people that were teaching me came from their 9 to 5 to teach me for their night classes. And I found that to be one of the best ways of educating people, especially getting that internal knowledge and that occupational knowledge in order for me to succeed. So that is one way that I would love to give back to the world is become a community college professor and teach financial literacy, financial independence, and real estate investing. Those are the main three things.
I absolutely love that, man. And in a world where we're the age of knowledge, we have everything at our fingertips, and yet so many people don't know like any of this.
Yeah.
So I think that's really awesome. It's really noble, and I think we need people like that who have done it and who are willing to impart that knowledge. Because again, building wealth is not it's not a one man job. It's not a single man play. Everyone needs to learn how to do it, and everyone needs to do it. And we're all going to be better off because of it. But before we jump back to anything, I want to go back to the Starbucks, and we need to go down a rabbit hole for this because, dude, Starbucks. Oh my gosh, I worked there for maybe a year, maybe a year and a half. It was the hardest job of my life. And you're laughing because you're like, what are you talking about? It's easy. It's like, no, it's so hard. All those drinks, dealing with cranky people at 5:30 in the morning who haven't
Mm.
had their coffee yet, and the cappuccino isn't dry enough, so you got to remake it. And there's like a line of 20 people. So hard. How did you stay for 8 years?
Yeah, the dry cappuccinos, man, those are tough. And I'll leave that mystery behind it. I won't even explain what they are. But why did I stay for that long? Number one was the part-time benefits. I was able to work 20 hours a week and I was able to get vision, dental, 401k, my own Roth IRA, and stock options. I was like, dude, that's already pretty sick. The actual lifestyle or the work life balance itself, or sorry, not the work life balance, but the actual work itself. Um, I found it to be my turning point in my life where I was a hardcore introvert prior to Starbucks.
Mm,
And it really broke me out of my shell. And people were genuinely interested in learning about me just being a customer. And I don't know
mm,
what it was like for you, but I had an overall good experience. And a lot of the friends that I've made during Starbucks, misery loves company. So they emceed my wedding. They were part of the groom's men. Still see them every once in a while when they come to visit. I mean, this is all stuff that I saw and came out of Starbucks with after those 8 years. So, all in all, I enjoyed it. It was a good experience.
that's fantastic. Okay, but now the most important question. We'll fire off a couple of these bangers here.
Yep.
Is Starbucks good coffee?
Oh no, I
Okay.
I would not like that.
Okay. All right. Good.
If I were
Do you,
to, yeah. Sorry. One last thing I would say. I mean, if you were to get your quick fix and enjoy the space, sure. But if you were to expect a good cup of coffee with knowledgeable baristas, I mean, I was coming in there hungover, hardcore with 2 hours of sleep. I don't care if the espresso shots were dying. You're taking that and you have the caffeine, you know?
That's amazing. It's so true. Okay, so if you're gonna go get a good cup of coffee in Denver, where do you go?
Yes, I have a couple of spots. Me being an EXP real estate agent, I can work wherever, so it's kind of nice. So, Corvus Coffee is really good. They have a couple of shops. Let me see where else. Sweet Bloom. Sweet Bloom is another really
Oh,
good coffee. roaster and place in general. And another one that I interviewed back in Big Locals podcast is Sheba Roastery, and she roasts her own coffee, and it's Ethiopian. Like, she's Ethiopian, and she roasts the coffee and grew up with coffee and started drinking it at 7 years old. So her mom has a whole ritual with it, and I found the whole experience to be pleasant and religious, if you ask me. So they know how to treat their coffee right, and I think it's the birthplace of coffee, if I remember right. So go check out Sheba Roastery. And Yirgacheffe is the type of coffee that you got to go check out. So thanks for asking that, man.
That's absolutely that's my favorite type is Ethiopian Yirgacheffe. Where is it? What part of town?
Yeah. It can only be bought at farmers markets where she doesn't have a brick and mortar, so she's over at these farmers markets. I know she stations up at Grandma's house, the brewery, not your grandma's house, but she yeah, there, and also this Ethiopian, her dad's store, and I forgot what the store name is called, but I've only been buying her half pound or pound coffees that are roasted from the farmers market, so I like to see her and have a conversation with her.
Fantastic. Grandma's house is on South Broadway, right?
I believe that's the
Right
one.
there by
Yeah, it's a fun spot.
Evans. Okay. Yeah, it is super cool. Highly recommend that place. Which actually brings me to my next question. What's your favorite brewery in
Ooh, yeah.
town?
Yeah, for sure. Brewery. This will hold a special place in my heart just because it was the first one, Cerebral Brewing. Fantastic hazy IPAs and pale ale, surprisingly. So kind of weird ends of the spectrum. Cerebral's good. It's off Colfax, and True Brewing. I love my heavy metal, and they definitely encompass that death metal Satanism vibe. It's that deep, that second wolf inside of me, if you know.
Yeah, that's the only stuff I work out to is the gets me going.
It's the passion
So
and
I've
anger in
never absolutely, man. Yeah, just the weights just get light after that. So
it.
I will definitely have to check them out. I've never been to either of those.
Yep, good stuff, man. I will say that you would be a great podcast host. I know we were talking about this before we pressed record. If you guys have some sort of good topic or just have some sort of schedule going, this could take off with you hosting it, man. That's really good. Your transitions are great, and you have good input after I say it. You're a natural, dude. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thanks, bro. The part that I've always struggled is I'm such a conversationalist. I always give like hints and like, oh yeah, yeah, kind of in the middle of conversation. That does not sound good on podcasts because then you have like three different voices coming in. So something I've had to work on. But I'll wrap it up with this last question and thank you again. That was very kind of you. One that I wanted to ask you that I thought was kind of different than probably what other people have asked you, and maybe would kind of give some of your listeners a little look into the heart that you have for Denver and for this podcast and maybe some of the people that you educate. But and I'm gonna switch it up a little bit even than what I wrote down. But in 10 years, when you look back at what you've done and you look at what's in your life, who's in your life, when you look at Denver, where you live, how would you have known? What are a couple of characteristics? What are a couple of things that stick out to you that would have shown you that you had achieved what you had set out to accomplish?
Totally. Number one would be seeing this podcast grow up into an event space. I see this being an annual, almost like Vans Warp Tour, where you have just all of these bands, live music, beer garden, activities for the families to come in and see Invest in Denver become a physical space for Denver to enjoy yearly. That's what I would love to see in 10 years. And not only just invest in Denver, but I would love to make this national. Me coming from San Diego, I would love to have Invest in San Diego, where investing doesn't necessarily have to be money, but it also means the love of the city. How much do you give back to the community? Is there small businesses there that need the extra leg up to have a vendor space, right? I mean, this is all stuff that I would love to see. And my footprint on Denver, not to like, I don't mean stepping on them, but I mean like what I would love to leave behind is a place knowing that I have given other people the opportunity for wealth building and financial independence and making sure that the next generation is seeing a better world than what I'm leaving it. So, 10 years, that doesn't sound so tangible, but I know with financial independence and invest in Denver, I find that to be more of a physical reality for me 10 years down the road.
Wow. First of all, well thought out. It seems that you have definitely gone through and considered your whys, and you've plotted that out. I think that's extremely important, and I think that your goals and what you want to accomplish is really awesome, man. So I'm stoked for you. I definitely want to be a part of it. I'm stoked to be been a part of it today, and you're gonna get it, buddy.
Cheers, man. Dude, thanks for holding the mic for a little bit. And if anyone thinks that you're a super cool guy and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
If anyone thinks I'm a super cool guy, that would be something, wouldn't it? My mom and my wife have been telling me, but I'm not convinced yet. But if they wanted to, and if they did think that, you could follow me on Instagram. And I've got kind of a weird Instagram handle, okay? It's Ryan Russell. It's my name, RyanRussell. But the Y and the U in my name are V's. Okay, so it's RVANRVSSELL. I don't know
Perfect.
why I did it. I just thought it looked cool.
A lot of bands are doing it these days. I think it's the end thing. Churches with the
Yeah.
V instead. I feel that.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Respect.
And plus, it looks like designer too, like Prada, but with a V or something like that. I don't know, dude. Whatever.
Facts. Facts.
Well, thanks so much, Ryan. As for me, definitely reach out to ian.realestateagent. Find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I have a lot of good stuff on YouTube, and this will be posted on YouTube. Maybe this is where you're seeing it so you can see our smiling, happy faces and passion behind every word. I come out with different house hacking videos every week and shorts along there. So come for the memes, but stay for the education. Make sure you leave 5-star review, comment, like, subscribe, and all those fancy things. This day and age, I can't even keep up with it. So, with that being said, thanks for hanging out with us on the Invest in Denver podcast. Thanks, Brian.
Ian, it's been a blast, buddy. Thanks for having me.